Topping today's news, much of the country is still in shock as murders continue, with 3 souls lost on the weekend, including a young female. The country records its second traffic fatality, this time involving a motorcyclist. The government forging stronger ties in Africa, and we'll take a look at young Bahamians doing positive things in sports. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jarino Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News, and it is a pleasure to have you join us. Law-abiding citizens in the Bahamas continue to be plagued with what appears to be an endless murder spree after 3 people were shot dead on the weekend in 3 separate shooting incidents that began on Friday when a 40-year-old male was shot to death by the occupants of a white Japanese model vehicle shortly before 8 p.m. while at a popular liquor store on the corner of Market Street and West End Avenue in Coconut Grove. The vehicle believed to be used in that crime was later found by police on Stack Avenue in Nassau Village. Police continue their investigations into that homicide, which was the 15th homicide for the year. There was more bloodshed in the streets when shortly after 2 p.m. on Walnut Street, Pinewood Gardens, on Sunday afternoon, 2 men were shot multiple times about the body, leaving one of the victims deceased on scene, while the second man was rushed to hospital, where at last reports he remained in critical condition. Chief Superintendent Chrislyn Skippings has more details on that double shooting.
We are investigating a double shooting incident that has left 1 man dead and the other in hospital in critical condition. I can say to you that we are actively pursuing 2 males who were responsible for this incident, who were in a Nissan vehicle. One of the males was armed with a high-powered weapon, the other with a handgun. And they opened fire on the 2 males, which resulted in one of the males succumbing to his injuries on scene.
The tragic irony of the situation, according to the police, the deceased, who was visiting from Grand Bahama, was on New Providence for his brother's funeral. Chief Superintendent Skippings shared the following.
At this time, I can say that the deceased came in from Freeport to attend the funeral of a relative who was shot and killed during the latter part of last month. At this time, it's a bit early in the investigation. And so, like I always say, the fine men and women of the Criminal Investigations Department, let us allow them to conduct the inquiries. Let us allow them to do what they do best. And once they have gotten additional information for me, I will pass that information on to you.
Reports are that the victim was in the capital for his brother's funeral. His brother was also shot and killed while at the motorsports park in December, which also resulted in another shooting death in the Montel Heights area after a high-speed chase ensued from the sports center following that initial shooting. Following that double shooting in Pinewood Gardens, later on the same day, around 7 p.m. on Sunday, a young female was fatally shot while in the area of South Street and Hospital Lane in Bainstown community. Police say when they arrived on the scene, they met the 26-year-old female lying on the ground, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. Emergency medical technicians responded to the scene, examined the victim, and determined that there were no signs of life. If you have any information that can help the police with their investigations, you're asked to contact the Criminal Investigations Department, CID, or you can call Crime Stoppers and remain anonymous at 328-TIPS, 328-8477, or you can call 911 or 919. Meanwhile, appearing in the magistrate's court today was 30-year-old Sidney Hart, charged with the Wednesday, January 17th murder of Jason Lamb. Hart appeared in court number 9 before Acting Chief Magistrate Roberto Reckley. He was remanded to the Bahamas Department of Correctional Services and will return to court on March 25th for a voluntary bill of indictment. Police say Hart shot Lamb while he sat in his vehicle on the traffic light at the corner of Parkgate and Village Roads on that rainy Wednesday morning. Lamb's death was the 13th for the year. In the meantime, police investigators are seeking the public's help in locating 3 men wanted for questioning in connection to murder. The first suspect, pictured here, is 27-year-old Tevin Johnson. His last known address was Johnson Road, Fox Hill. He stands between 5 feet 7 and 5 feet 9 inches tall and is of dark brown complexion and medium build. The second suspect is 26-year-old Malik Roll, last known address Lightbourne Avenue, Yellow Elder Gardens. Police say Roll, who's also pictured here, stands between 5 feet 10 inches tall and 6 feet and is of dark complexion and slim build. The third suspect, 18-year-old Alex Ovilma, last known address Joe Farrington Road. Ovilma's height is unknown, but he is said to be of dark brown complexion and slim build. If you know of the whereabouts of any of these men, you are asked to contact the police. Remember, you can do so anonymously at Crime Stoppers. That's 328-TIPS, 328-8477. The police also reminding the general public that harboring of wanted criminals is an offense that can land you behind the courts or can land you before the courts and eventually behind bars. Scores of members of the Free National Movement and its leader, Michael Pintard, gathered outside the office of the Prime Minister this morning, where they met with reporters to speak of the high number of murders in the country. During the protest, when asked about the call by many Bahamians for capital punishment, Mr. Pintard had the following to say.
One is, it is not going to solve all of our problems. That's why we need the range of programs, short-term, medium, and long-term programs. That's one point. So Bahamians should not be lulled to sleep that if you had capital punishment tomorrow, all of a sudden all of the murders will stop. We need social intervention. We need to socialize our children. The values that are important to us, that is respect for life, respect for private property, respect for women, that they own their body and we don't get to determine everything that they do with it. These are values that are important, that in order to get a pay, you ought to be working hard in order to earn it. So there are values.
Mr. Pintard expands on his views with regards to enforcing the death penalty, cautioning that there must be a level of care to ensure that individuals are not wrongly marked for death.
That the government has to read the death warrants to force persons who are on death row to speed up their appeals. Because once they hit a threshold, I believe it's 5 years or so, if they are on death row, what the law says is that it's cruel and unusual punishment to keep someone on death row for an inordinate period of time. And so you have you are unable then to apply the death penalty. I don't see any urgency in getting people to exhaust their appeals. And so that's something we will be having a discussion about. Some members of the team wish to have a discussion on whether or not we would keep, for example, the civil side of the Privy Council and eliminate the criminal side. All of those are discussions that we say, listen, come. In fact, we have a meeting this evening, and we will be having discussions around these kinds of issues. But the other thing that's important is that we have to make sure from the point of arrest to prosecution that the system is not flawed so that innocent people are not marked for death.
That was leader of the official opposition, Michael Pintard, speaking outside the office of the Prime Minister this morning. And finally, in this segment, as the Prime Minister makes his way home following a long weekend of meetings and discussions at the 19th Summit of Non-Aligned Movement in Uganda, Latrey Ramming, Director of Communications for the Office of the Prime Minister, found himself defending the Davis administration's crime policy as members of the opposition Free National Movement protested outside the Office of the Prime Minister this morning, claiming that the Davis administration is failing on crime. However, Mr. Ramming is pointing the finger at the FNM.
I think the most unfortunate thing about what transpired this morning is political grandstanding. The opposition had a choice. They could have choose country over politics. Obviously, they chose politics. They could have choose unity over politics. Obviously, they choose politics. And I'm disappointed because I think this was the perfect opportunity for Mr. Pintard to demonstrate to the country that he is prepared to hold hands on an issue that is so fundamental to our national security. I think Bahamians are sick of the politics. They are sick of the grandstanding. They're sick of both some of the political parties not being able to come together in this moment to join hands, right? The government has been clear. We outlined a 5-point plan to deal with the issue of crime. We have been able to see what was proposed by the opposition last year. many of which already exist in the government's plan. And we also remind the opposition that when they came into power in 2017, they were the ones that defunded urban renewal. So when you defund key programs, when you defund key initiatives that is responsible to ensuring our communities are safe, it hampers our ability to tackle the very same issues that are confronting us today.
Last week, the government released a national crime plan that is expected to engage all arms of the government and the community in an effort to reduce crime and violence, especially murders, which are now at 17 for the year. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.